By the 1960s, Tollerton was a thriving airfield, large enough to stage an air show with such attractions as a Supermarine Spitfire, one of the few remaining Spitfires that flew in the Battle of Britain. The Red Arrows are seen performing their now familiar displays, seen here in the Follard Gnats, the aircraft used by the Red Arrows before changing to their now more familiar Hawks. In this next section, we take a musical look at the familiar sights of Nottingham of the 1960s. Some of these sights are still here. And maybe you too have old cine film in your attics and cupboards about Nottingham, which could be used in later bygone films. If so, please call the number shown at the end of the film. During the 1920s, the popularity of Scouting continued to grow under the guidance of its founder, Lord Baden-Powell, and the patronage of His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. Nottingham was proud to host a jamboree and pageant attended by Lord Baden-Powell to commemorate significant events in the history of Nottingham. Scout troops from around Nottinghamshire recalled such events as the establishment of a castle at Nottingham, not the existing one, following the Norman conquest. Henry I granted the town's first royal charter, which led to what is believed to be the original version of the Goose Fair. Legend has it that when Richard the Lionheart went to fight the Crusades, King John and his wicked henchman, the Sheriff of Nottingham, performed some dastardly deeds, only to be thwarted by Nottingham's most famous son, Robin Hood, and his merry men from the nearby Sherwood Forest. In the English Civil War, Nottingham was the scene of fierce fighting between King Charles's Cavaliers and Cromwell's Roundheads. The old castle was pulled down after the war to prevent it ever being used for military purposes again. Nottingham's predominance as a centre for hose and lace stretches back over 400 years. The first frame for hose manufacture was invented at Calverton. Framework knitting, cotton mills and spinning jennies transformed the villages around Nottingham into semi-industrialised suburbs. The message from the Prince of Wales, as printed in the Jam Pageant Handbook, reads, "As a citizen of Nottingham, I am glad to learn that the Boy Scouts of Nottinghamshire are organising, in May, a pageant of the historical events associated with the city and county. The Scout Jam Pageant, which will also be included in the programme, will give the boys an opportunity of showing what the Scouts can do, and I hope the people of Nottingham and the Midlands will give their support to the excellent character-building jamboree. I have been glad to give my name as patron of the historical Jam Pageant, and I wish it all success." Following the parades, Lord Baden-Powell as Chief Scout took the salute from the Scouts assembled from all over Nottinghamshire. "Arcala, we'll do our best." After the formalities, the fun began, although it's not known if there was a Scout badge for lassoing. We've already seen that the people of Nottingham enjoy celebrating on royal occasions. However, when the royal family pay a visit to the city, the flags really do come out. On the 1st of August 1923, the Prince of Wales visited the city as part of his tour of Britain's industrial and agricultural centres. Commencing with a formal greeting from the mayor at Bulwer Market, he went on to Ellerslie House before arriving at the Forest to the roar of a 50,000-strong crowd assembled on the banks. 20,000 children proudly sang their hearts out to their beloved Prince of Wales. 9 years has passed since the city had had a royal visit, but they still knew how to decorate the streets and buildings. It was noticed that a Nottingham club, who maybe should have known better, had the Union Jack hoisted the wrong way up. This visit was one of many made by the Prince to the city, and was at the beginning of a warm relationship between the Prince and the people of Nottingham. Later in 1927, the Prince opened the Gunthorpe Bridge over the River Trent, when he was presented with a miniature gold sword. This sword, together with a photograph of the opening, can now be seen in the Paris house of the late Duke and Duchess of Windsor, set up as a monument to the couple. Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip made their visit to Nottingham on the 28th of June 1949 as part of a royal tour of the Midlands. This was to also coincide with the celebrations of the 500th anniversary of the granting of the Charter by King Henry VI in 1449, giving Nottingham the status of county and the privilege of self-government. The couple saw a number of events throughout the day, including a spectacular dancing display by 480 girls from 16 secondary schools from the local area. As part of the Silver Jubilee celebrations in 1977, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip visited Nottingham on Thursday, the 28th of July. This day, as with many of their royal visits throughout the year, was run to a tight schedule. Starting their day in Derby, the royal party travelled to the Trent Bridge cricket ground where the England versus Australia Test match was taking place. Here the Queen took tea with both teams. It's believed this was the first time the sovereign had met with teams outside Lord's. Everyone, everything was red, white and blue, and street parties and fancy dress parades were the order of the day. The royal couple, in commemoration of their visit, were presented by the City of Nottingham with a silver coffee set for use on the royal train. It was expected that the streets of West Bridgford would be crowded with hundreds of children, so Rushcliffe Borough Council decided to hand out flags to many of them to ensure a colourful welcome for their Royal Highnesses. To the delight of the crowd, the couple could be easily seen by all in the Royal Rolls-Royce, which had been specially designed with a large glass top. The winters of the early 1960s will stick in the minds of many. In the year that saw a section of the River Thames freeze over, so did the pond at Vernon Park and the University Lake, allowing the rare occurrence of ice skating. The long cold spell and plenty of lying snow in December 1961 enabled children in their hundreds to don their woolly hats, dust off their sledges for hours of icy fun. In the same vein as the famous film featuring the train journey from London to Brighton in 10 minutes, we see here a motorcar version from Beeston to the Midland Station in around 2 minutes. I'm quite sure this will be more difficult today with the increase in traffic that's taken place since the 1960s.
At the eastern end of the square stands the Council House, designed by Cecil Height and opened in May 1929. Once the subject of much controversy, it is now a familiar and comfortable landmark whose impressive beauty dominates the city centre. At the rear of the building is a fine shopping arcade modelled on the arcade in Milan. The dome, which rises to a height of 202 feet above the pavement, has 4 groups of statuary around the base: sceptre and book, civic law, the launching of a boat, commerce, knowledge, a woman holding a globe, and prosperity shown by a mother and child group. The front of the Council House is flanked by 2 large statues of lions, designed by Joseph Else. The civic part of the building is entered through an arcaded portico leading to a marble hall and the grand staircase, at the head of which stands a statue by Reed Dick, representing the spirit of welcome. To this entrance come the Lord Mayor, the Sheriff, and the Aldermen and Councillors on their way to the Council Chamber to discuss and arrange the affairs of Nottingham as their predecessors have done in almost the same spot for centuries past. In this building, too, are the fine rooms in which guests of the city are entertained. For in the words of the inscription beneath the dome, the Corporation of Nottingham erected this building for council and welcome, and to show merchandise and craft. And while the formal debates on civic affairs take place within the council house, the old market square provides a forum for the free expression of all shades of opinion, both religious and political.
Sure.
But not all speakers seek a large audience, and not all meetings form a crowd. For the old marketplace is also a place of gaiety and laughter for young people who use the processional way for a parade, and the lions as a rendezvous. They come to the market square not to remember, but to build up memory. The rays of the setting sun glint down Chapel Bar, and the lights of signs and windows come on one by one. As evening wears on into night, the crowds drift back into the square, soon to seat buses to take them home once more. As the minutes go by, people hurry from cinema and theatre, for soon little John, before falling silent for the night, will strike 11. The last buses will pull out, leaving the square for the lions, the pigeons, and the great, bright clock face.
Call the Nottingham Imperial Building Society for a full range of competitive schemes. Mortgages, remortgages, house insurance, investment accounts. Call free on 0500 340 566 for a free no-obligation consultation. Our experts are here to help you.